What does the word God mean to you?
It used to mean more than it does now. I'm not really a religious person. So I think the word God more doesn't mean anything about religion to me. It just means about like belief. And I believe in a lot of things that aren't necessarily like spiritual or like religious, just in general. And I think that it's anybody who believes in God, that's just like a different type of belief. And so I just respect people who can commit to something like that they believe so heavily in.
When's the last time you had sex?
On my birthday, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
July 15th.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
If you could change one thing about this podcast, what would it be?
Be in Albuquerque.
We're going to do some road trips. Brian's
Awesome.
going to go on the road. So forthcoming. You're listening to Artists with Brian, the podcast by artists for artists, about artists really doing it, the artist more than the art, the artist as hero, the web's #1 rumination on the artistic temperament. I'm Brian, here with
Ian Beckley.
He's a 22-year-old travel and landscape photographer. He's also a senior at UNM in business. Check out his work while we talk on Instagram at Beckley Photo. That's BKLY Photo. He's got 682 pieces and counting, over 12 million impressions of his photographs online to date. Nearly 9K Instagram followers. Really impressive. Go check it out right now. BKLY Photo. Let's go to a question from last week's guest, puppeteer and filmmaker Devin Hawks Lidlow.
If you created a puppet of yourself, what would it look like? How would you operate it? Would you want it to be scary, funny, or something else?
That's a very interesting question. If I had to create a puppet of myself, I think I would want it to... I would kind of go into like a Renaissance time, I feel like. And I would make myself like the town fool because I'm a very sarcastic and not serious person all the time. And all my friends tell me that I always have something to say and I'm never lost for words. So I'd make like a kind of town foolery, sarcastic Renaissance age puppet. I think that would be fun.
Like a robe, maybe warts.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like weird hat made to dress funny and entertain the king while he's eating his dinner, you know?
Very good. I'm sure Devin will like that answer. Let's go to the first of 3 games. If you go 3 for 3 on these games, you're going to win this VHS copy VT that I think 4 guests now in a row have failed to win.
Oof.
Game 1, multiple choice. The oldest surviving photograph in the world was taken by a French inventor in what year? You got 3 choices: 1726, 1826, 1926.
I'm going to go with 1826.
Correct. It was an 8-hour-long exposure. Some people think it
Jeez.
was like a whole day on a camera obscura entitled View from the Window at Le Gras. Next game. You're perfect so far. This is called Do You Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. The International Balloon Fiesta is an annual event featuring over 500 hot air balloons. It's 9 days, first full week in October. It's the largest balloon fiesta in the world. First held in 1972 as the 50th birthday celebration of what? 3 choices again: an ABQ radio station, the Queen of England, or catgut, the first balloon to fly the skies of New Mexico.
I'm going to go C. That was a hard one.
It was. So in 1972, the first ever balloon fiesta was the 50th birthday celebration of an Albuquerque radio station, 770 KOB Radio. The owner of that station partnered with Cutter Flying Services, a hot air balloon outlet. They wanted to beat the record of most balloons in one place, which was currently 19 out of England. They confirmed 21 pilots for the event, and it yielded 13 balloons, 20,000 spectators.
For 13 balloons.
That's right.
That's
so
a lot.
Got off to a really hot start. I bring up the Balloon Fiesta because you have 2 guest blogs on photography right now out online. Listeners can check them out at bklYstudios.com. And one of them is about how to photograph the Balloon Fiesta. You did it in partnership with Ad Travel New Mexico and Simply Social Media. It tells readers where and when to get the best shots, where to even park, the nitty-gritty stuff. How'd you set that up?
So I've worked with Travel New Mexico and the Simply Social Media team for a while. I went to one of their like influencer events, and so last year I actually did I did pro tips for them, but it was just through Instagram stories. And this year we thought about just writing it out, and so giving everybody like an actual place to go read it more consistently, and also to attract a different type of audience, because I know a lot of people that go to the Balloon Fiesta aren't necessarily social media users. There's the older crowd that they bring their RVs and they'll stay there all week, and so I wanted to kind of broaden the audience, because as well as it was being posted on Instagram, the article as well, and then that's something that I just been wanting to do a lot more of lately, was just writing. So
Okay. Do you have plans to do more collaborations like that?
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
with blogging.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it seems like teaching photography is sort of a natural endeavor for you. You're so viewed online. Do you feel like that's your ultimate calling, or do you want to do a hybrid of continuing to shoot and teach?
I think a hybrid would be perfect. Like, I know a few photographers, they do a lot of workshops, and they do like 3 or 4 workshops a year, and these workshops they can make like a lot of money on. But
Okay.
I would love to teach like photography workshops. I did do an editing workshop recently, but like an on-location week-long photography workshop with like a group of 10 would be like incredible, because I'm going to be teaching as well as shooting at the same time, and then in between workshops it'd be crazy to just like keep scouting more locations and stuff like that.
So revenue from teaching is a way to fund your own travel as a photographer. That's pretty neat. Your aesthetic is highly Western, I find. Landscapes, vistas, wide open nature shots, even drone shots. I want to know, what are the origins of this voice? Why the West?
I think it's just because of, obviously I'm located in Albuquerque, and I haven't been shooting all necessarily too long comparatively to most people. I've been about 2 years, a little over 2 years, and I haven't really had the chance to travel all too much between then. So most of the trips I take are in the Southwest. There are things I can do on a 3-day weekend. There are things I can go to with my friends on for a night. So it's like driving out to Moab, Utah, driving into the Grand Canyon, driving to Page, Arizona, heading up to the Great Sand Dunes in Colorado, going anywhere in New Mexico. So anything that's like within a day drive is like most of the trips that I've done recently. So I think that's where like the kind of Western vibe and style comes from. It's just where I'm located, and it's a great. Albuquerque's a great location for that, because we're like 6 hours away from so many things. So
Right.
as long as it's within a day drive, I'll send it that way.
What's the next landscape on your horizon that you want to tackle? Like, I guess non-Western. If you could get an international flight anywhere, where would it be?
Probably Iceland.
Really?
Yeah, Iceland is
Yeah.
just crazy. I just had a friend come back from there, and some of his shots were just on another level.
That's where Game of Thrones is filmed, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everybody's shooting Iceland right now. Iceland is beautiful, but it's just like one of my, if I could just see one thing the rest of my life before I die, it'd be the Northern Lights. So
The Northern Lights.
yeah.
Yeah, I went to Iceland, and we tried to see the Northern Lights, but it was like just out of season.
Mhm.
So it was kind of sad
And that's one
to
of
be
the,
so close, but
yeah.
so far.
That's one of the things that I like struggle with when I go to Iceland. I'm like, do I go in the summer and like it be a little more comfortable and I can get more places and see beautiful sunsets, or do I go in the winter and freeze my ass off but still see the Northern Lights? And so it's like I got to make 2 trips, I feel like.
Yeah. Is that coming up soon? Like, do you feel like you have some traction? Maybe get a sponsor to do that, or is that
Hopefully,
still-
like in 2020, I could probably set something up.
Okay.
My brother, Iceland is his like favorite country in the world,
Oh,
and he told me if I go without him, he'll kill me. So,
Okay.
so I gotta set something up so we can both go.
that's
We-
awesome.
We want to do about 2 weeks out there.
So you're killing it. It's only been 2 years, you said, but you've won 2 awards for photographs in 2019 alone. You're doing work for breweries, coffee houses, realtors. People all over the world are using your photos as desktop wallpapers and phone backgrounds. I want to know, in this 2-year journey, what's been the biggest slog of yours to get a shot? What's the story of the hardest? Like sunrise, wake up, or hike, etc.
So probably when I went to Page, Arizona last year in January, that's where I got my favorite photograph I've ever gotten, and that's also where I got like probably the most uncomfortable that I've ever been while shooting. So the first one is when it's my favorite shot. It's called The Wave, this rock formation. I got this shot with these like star trails over the rock formation, and that was just like crazy because we hiked back in the dark and it was cold and everything had froze over. So it was pitch black and we're sliding down hills, but I was with a really, really great group of guys. So even though it was like a crazy hike and freezing cold, like it was a great experience. Then next night, this is the most uncomfortable I've ever been. Everyone probably knows Horseshoe Bend. I wanted to get star trails over Horseshoe Bend. And so I went out there and completely misplanned. Didn't look at the time that the moon had set. It was January, it's about 23 degrees. And I was trying to shoot star trails, which takes about an hour and a half to do the amount of trails that I wanted to do. And so I set my camera up to keep shooting on its own, and I had my sleeping bag, and I just fell asleep. And I woke up, and my sleeping bag was covered in ice, and it was iced over, and my camera was iced over, and I had misplanned it too, so I didn't even really get the shot that I'd wanted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I got a shot that I ended up, I guess, salvaging. At the time, I salvaged it, posted it on Instagram. It's not something I probably would have posted now, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the hardest shot is one that didn't turn out. That's really
Yeah.
interesting. What's your most viewed photo?
Probably my balloon reflection photo of at sunrise
Okay.
from Balloon Fiesta last year.
Last year.
Yeah.
So it's a year old, and it's
Mhm.
accumulated the most views of anything.
Yeah, it got posted on a 15.5 million follower page on Instagram,
Wow,
I think.
Instagram
So
is fascinating.
it's crazy, yeah.
If you get picked up by a big account.
Yeah, and then I've also licensed that to be made into puzzles before that photo. So it's
Licensed it to puzzles.
mhm.
That's fascinating. At
Yeah.
22.
Yeah, someone asked me, they're like, I would love to make a puzzle of this, and so I sent them my licensing
Wow.
contract.
Did you track when you got featured by the 15 million follower account how many follows you got?
Yeah, I did. It was
Yeah,
it
well,
was
let us know,
It
man.
was like 1,500 followers in like a day.
In a day.
It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you hunt for those features now?
Not really.
No?
No. I used to be more about like the social media game and posting what I thought people would want to see, and to a point, obviously, I still post what I think people want to see on my page because it is landscapes, and I shoot way more than just landscapes. But I'm not gonna worry about features as much as just enjoying, because I found that sometimes when you post for features, it takes away from the enjoyment of actually shooting, and I don't shoot for Instagram. I shoot because I love to.
Awesome. What are maybe this is a future blog post for you, but what are the top 3 mistakes amateur photographers make? Actually,
This would be like a great just topic to talk about. I think number 1 is actually like asking for too much help. I get everyone has questions, and when you ask for help, like that's awesome when people are here to help you. But from my experience, asking for help is because you're afraid to go make mistakes. So sending messages to photographers, what do I do here? I'm going out to shoot. What do I do here? And like, I don't mind answering to these messages, but like sometimes it'll take me days at a time to get back to messages, and I just think it's 'cause people are afraid to make mistakes. So asking for too much help, just go out and shoot. Second is thinking that gear matters as much as it does. So when you're an amateur photographer, gear really does not matter all that much, because you're not going to be shooting in too intensive of situations. Anything that you are shooting is not going to be something that needs to be super high quality, be printed massive size, and you don't have to worry about the gear that much. You don't need to have the $5,000 camera. You don't need to have $10,000 computer. Just go out and take photos. I've seen pages of people who they're great photographers, but they have a second page, and all it is like their phone photos, and they're still incredibly beautiful photos. So I think people focus too much on gear, and like that was one of my faults when I first started. I committed into a lot of gear really quickly, and luckily it turned out well. But if it didn't, I would have been $6,000 into gear for something that I didn't really like, or I wasn't that great at. So I guess that's the second one. And the third one is just not shooting as much as they can. When I first started, I was shooting 6-7 times a week, and just going out and making mistakes and just figuring it out on my own. And so a lot of times I feel like people, they don't go out and shoot as much as they can, because that's the best way to learn. It's just to go out and take photos, go back, look at them, edit them, see how they look.
And you're mostly self-taught
Yeah,
over these last 2 years.
pretty much all self-taught.
What's
yeah.
teaching you right now?
My friends.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of my friends are extremely creative people. 2 of my best friends, Riley Russell and Josh Lane. Josh is the photographer for New Mexico United. He's their brand manager. He does graphic design. He is a great video editor, fantastic landscape photographer, fantastic at everything. And Riley is a very, very good landscape photographer and just tells a story really well. And so they both do a little bit of different work than I do. So I like that they both kind of flank me. And so I will that's kind of how I'm learning now. I don't really ask. I kind of just see something that I want to do better, and I try it. And then I evaluate myself. I have other people evaluate me, and then I move on to improve on it. So
I think you're onto something. I hear this over and over again. Not just that you need to be self-taught, but that to really break through, to learn something new, you got to surround yourself with the best that are also doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really clever. In looking back, though, for young photographers? What resource would you point them to catch up, maybe to the point where they can learn from peers?
So the main person that I have like learned from on like YouTube, his name is Serge Remeli. Actually, funny story. Like the first week I was ever shooting, I actually happened to meet him at Balloon Fiesta.
Really?
Yeah, and he has fantastic free instructional like photography guides, and he's a French photographer, full time, really nice guy, and his YouTube videos are great because he'll go through a shot, why he shot that, and then he'll like edit it, and then he'll give you the presets he used in that and the file, so you can walk through it with him and edit with him, and he'll give you a whole bunch of free presets, and he's got tons and tons, and he is majority like an educational photographer. So his website has like thousands of presets you can buy or thousands of tutorials, and he works with other different creative artists to bring tutorials to you. And so time-lapse tutorials, video editing tutorials, Photoshop tutorials. So if you're like, wow, I really want to learn Photoshop and I don't want to just jump into it, he's got a tutorial for it. So almost any like basic photography like knowledge that you may need, he's got like a tutorial for it. And I wasn't like one that bought tutorials. I'm not that type of person to just go buy that type of thing. But luckily I met him, so I kind of got the in-person tutorials, and I spent a few days with him in New Mexico while he's out here. So it was very helpful.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What's his name again for the listeners?
Serge Remeli. Last name is Rameli.
Okay, and YouTube is his primary outlet?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Let's play our final game. It's an audio game.
Okay.
We're going to test how well you know feature films that feature photography and photographers. It's called Pick the Picture featuring photography. I'm going to play a 30-second clip from a feature film.
Okay.
And you got to guess which film. Here we go.
You also said that in 14 years of servicing, he's never seen a faulty counter on an AGFA unit.
Really?
Oh, so the question is, Si, where did all those unaccounted for prints go?
Well, what kind of discrepancy are we talking about, Bill?
We're talking about hundreds of prints, Si.
That's not possible, Bill.
Oh, no, I've done the math. And the POs confirm it, too.
Well, I don't know anything about it.
Well, I think you do, Si.
Well, I don't, Bill.
Any idea?
I know it has Robin Williams in it.
Oh, very good. It's from 2002, psychological thriller.
Oh, I don't know.
Let's see. What you're my youngest guest so far.
Yeah.
So what age? You were an infant back then.
Yeah, in 2002, I was like 8, 7.
Yeah, there's one of my favorite movies, written and directed by Mark Romanek. Cost $12 million to make, grossed $52 million at the box office. It's something our listeners could check out. It's 81% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I think I have an idea, but I don't exactly
Do you
know.
want? Yeah, you can take
Is
a
it
wild
like
guess.
the Dead Poet Society? Is that I can't remember. I don't know
Oh,
if
that's a
that.
great Robin Williams film.
Okay.
This one is called 1 Hour Photo.
I've never even heard of that.
He plays a tech at like it's an imitation Walmart
Mhm.
1 Hour Photo kiosk, and he gets obsessed with his customers' lives. In that scene, he gets fired for basically like making his own prints
Okay.
on the company's dime.
We gotta watch that.
Dead Poet Society. Have you seen it?
I haven't. No.
Wow, they showed that to me in English class
Really?
in like 2000.
They showed me the new Great Gatsby in English class
There you
with Leonardo DiCaprio.
The new Great Gatsby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed that one, but
It's
I know what
good.
you're talking about.
It's very different than the old one.
Let's go to the clay pot. There's a collection of fan questions. I'll pull out a few at random and we'll see what we get. First fan question. Ian, how do you handle stress?
It's gonna kind of sound like cheesy, but photography is one of the main handles of stress. There's nothing like, in my opinion, like more calming than if I've had a bad day and I'm stressed. Just going out, taking our dog out, and go on a little hike, sit there, set up my camera, watch the sunset, and take some photos. So that's a really helpful way to beat stress. And then music is a really big way that I deal with stress. I actually think that the reason I never fell into like hard drugs or anything or drinking too much when I was younger is because I always like found like an emotional outlet in music with any type of like emotion that I had. And so music is a really, really big like stress reliever for me too.
Awesome. A true artist, the artistic temperament.
Yeah.
Do you find that when you're restless inside, you get the best shots?
I find that when I'm restless inside, I get some of my best ideas.
Oh, very good.
I keep like a little pad, like a notepad next to my bed on my desk, and so I'll be laying there like 2 a.m. sometimes, just thinking about like shots that I want or places I want to go or article ideas, and I'll just reach over and write it down real quick.
Beautiful. I keep a pad next to my bed too. Next fan question. Biggest lie you've told your mother?
It's a hard one. In high school, I lied to her a lot.
Oh,
So,
really?
Yeah.
What was the motivation for the serial lying?
I don't know. Like, I mean, so my mom was very involved in my life when I was younger, and I felt like I just didn't want her involved in my life a lot. So I think like maybe the biggest one is I always lied to her about like what I was doing with girls. Just be like, no, I'm not doing anything. We're just friends or whatever. So, because she, when I was in high school, was a high school teacher at my high school. So,
Oh man.
so she's
Well,
very
there's the
involved in
answer.
my life.
Yeah. So you just bargaining for a little space, a
Yeah.
little freedom.
Which is weird because I would still like go to her classroom on my own, like ditch class to go to her classroom. She's like, "Are you freaking kidding me? You ditch, get out of here."
Next fan question. What size bed do you sleep in?
I sleep in a queen size bed.
As do I.
I think that's the perfect size. King's too big for my room, and I like to spread myself out, so I can't do a double or a twin or anything.
I
so.
sleep diagonally on a queen.
I do too.
Yeah.
I sleep like a starfish, like face down, just touching all four corners.
Ooh, this one's great. Favorite New Mexican day trip?
That's a hard one. You asked me like 6 months ago, I would have told you White Sands. But I think
because of the photography.
Yeah.
too? Okay.
I think my favorite New Mexican day trip is probably the Bisty Badlands.
Bisty Badlands.
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
It's wild. It's a piece of BLM land between Grants and like Farmington kinda. So you go like out west toward Grants, head north towards Farmington. It's like halfway in between there. And it's just like one of the craziest places I've ever been. Like, you may have seen some photos like where they have those hoodoo like rock formations where they go up and they have like the big rock sitting on top of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the Bisty Badlands. And it's just, I've been a lot of like places in New Mexico, and that was like the first place I was like, this is crazy. So
Why? Okay, like,
it feels like a different world, like the rock textures. Like you have like these hills that are just like layered like a cake with different colors of rock. And you'll have just like black and red, like black and brown and just monochromed hills, and then you'll have like these 4 or 5 hills in the middle. There's bright red rock and these towering, and then you come over like a little hill, you don't see anything, you come over a hill and it's just like a little valley full of these like hoodoos, like these crazy rock formations. They're just sticking up in this valley, and it's just like another world. It's like I've never seen anywhere like that before. So
yeah. If you couldn't photograph it, would you love it just as much?
yeah, it's crazy to like go walk around. And Riley, Josh, and I, we went for the first time. I think Riley had been there before, but we all went for like the first time together. And we just like sat there on a hill, had a beer for a while, and just like looked around. It was crazy. So
How many times have you gone back to shoot there?
like 3 times in like the last 6 months.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you really do love it.
Yeah.
You live in Albuquerque, so what brought you to Santa Fe is not going to work. Let's do one more fan question.
You.
Who do you want to call out right now as an upcoming guest on this show?
Like an upcoming artist type of thing.
Exactly. Just have to be an artist of any type.
So I think that the one that I would call out is the guy that I'm actually hiring to do the graphic design for my upcoming podcast. His name's Brennan Frew, I think.
Okay.
Love his work. He just does graphic design part-time, but like love his style. Very, very New Mexican style. And I can send you his Instagram later, but
Yeah.
he does it for fun, does it part-time, works in Glorieta at like an adventure camp. Super nice guy. I met him for the first time on Sunday, but I've been like admiring his work for a while. So
Yeah, I love that you said style and aesthetic. That's exciting to me.
like you see his graphics and you kind of can tell that it's his graphics, you know? And
Yeah.
he's got a very New Mexican style in it.
And very New Mexican, which we'd love to feature on the show.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, put me in touch. I mean, regardless of whether we book him as a guest, I'll feature his Instagram
Awesome.
on the show account at artist with Brian with spelled out all one word. Follow Ian on Instagram. Let's get him to 10,000 followers at Beckley Photo. That's BKLY Photo, all one word. And go buy prints of his at Beckley Studios, BKLYstudios.com. Support his upcoming travels. Prints start at $15. You can buy it framed for some extra money. No hassle. Comes to your door ready. It's a great gift. And subscribe to this podcast in iTunes. We got new content dropping every Monday. Next few weeks will be deep dive conversations with previous guests. I'm also going to take the show outside do some impromptu interviewing of artists on the plaza. It's an exciting time for the show. Subscribe in iTunes. Support Brian, support the artists, stay connected. And before we go, Ian, a question for the next guest.
I think a good question for the next guest would be, if you go anywhere in the world to experience the culture, fully diversify yourself, where would you go and why?